Starter Visa program is a program which is meant for the people, for the foreign nationals who have innovative entrepreneurial business ideas and they are able to establish a qualifying business inside Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sajjad Malik. I am a Canadian business and immigration lawyer, a barrister and solicitor, and I'm speaking to you from my office in Ontario, from the city of Oakville, Canada. Today, I'll be talking to you about the startup visas and a few advantages of these visas when we compare them to the provincial entrepreneur programs. I have created some videos in the past on startup visas, but I would recap these visas for you. Startup visa program is a program which is meant for the people, for the foreign nationals who have innovative entrepreneurial business ideas and they are able to establish a qualifying business inside Canada. They are able to get support from the designated entities inside Canada, and they are also able to demonstrate settlement funds as well as a decent language proficiency in English or French. So these individuals may qualify under this federal program which is called a starter visa program, and once they sign up with us or with any other law firm and we are able to do the process for them, you can expect that within a few months time, 5 to 6 months time, they'll be able to submit their PR applications. During the processing of these PR applications, these individuals could come to Canada on a work permit. These individuals immigrate with their dependent children and spouses. And that processing times currently is about 30 months, but it may vary depending on the processing workload with the Canadian Immigration Department, as well as depending on the inventory of cases in the process. Now, a few advantages of these visas are the following. Number one, you know that for the provincial nomination entrepreneur process, there is another sub-process called net worth verification. For those individuals who are looking towards Ontario, British Columbia, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, or any other province for entrepreneur applications, once their expression of interest is approved or they are allowed to run their full-fledged application, there's a process called net worth verification process which must be conducted through one of the accounting firms in Canada, in which they ask you about all your assets, how have you created wealth, how have you acquired that wealth over a period of time. So you have to demonstrate it with all the asset creation process, documentation, your tax returns, your sale deed, purchase deed, stock creation, the evidence of showing the trail of money which led you to that particular net worth on the basis of which you are applying. In starter visa applications, on the other hand, there is no net worth process involved in it. So you don't have to demonstrate certain level of net worth in these applications. So that is the first advantage, that there's no net worth verification process, and this is important for those countries which are for those candidates who are coming from the countries where there's no strong documentation. They are not cash, they are mostly cash economies and they are not documented economies, so it becomes a challenge to sometimes establish the legitimately acquired wealth through the tracing process. Number two, the number two advantage of startup visas is that you may not be a proper business person. You may not be a person who has an established track record of business. That is of course useful, but somebody who has come out of the university or college but has a great innovative business idea which a designated entity entertains, that person may also apply for the starter visa under this program. Compared to an entrepreneur program where you have to demonstrate business ownership experience or business management experience. So that is the second advantage of startup visas. The third advantage of startup visas is that it's a federal program, and the processing times, though, are a little longer. They're at current time, the IRCC is sharing a timeline of about 30-31 months, and it could be higher or lower depending on the inventory and load of work. But when you submit your PR application through the startup visa program, if you are one of the essential members, you may also be able to come to Canada on a work permit along with your family members, dependent family members, your spouse, all your children below 22, and they could start studying in Canada. You may have access to healthcare and so on. So in this process, the processing time is higher, or it may be as long as in other applications, but you are able to come to Canada earlier on a work permit, which is not a case in the express entry for the federal skilled workers program. for example, the Quebec investor program, which is currently paused, it was not the case in that case. The fourth advantage of this program is, unlike the entrepreneur program, which is primarily run by the provinces, this is a federal program, so you can live anywhere in Canada. So if you have a business idea, innovative business idea, you're able to convince the designated entity, you can come and start your business even in Toronto or Vancouver. You are not confined. If you are a person who doesn't have a very high net worth, which is competitive to bring you to Canada, to Ontario or British Columbia, you may, even with a startup program, you can settle anywhere. You are not confined to live in a smaller province or in a smaller territory. You don't have to be around that for 75% of the times. So that is the fourth advantage of this visa. The fifth I've already discussed. In the fourth is that, yes, on work permit, you are able to come earlier than actual approval of the permanent residence. Before you become a permanent resident, you have the option of coming to Canada on a work permit and start a life for your children or your family in here. Your spouse could get an open work permit if she or he is willing to work, and they could do a job, they could start work, they could simultaneously accumulate Canadian work experience inside Canada. Another advantage of this is that you are able to bring all your dependent children who are 22 years when you submit your application. If they are all below 22 at that time, they are included in this application. Comparing this with the entrepreneur program, in entrepreneur program you submit an expression of interest, you are invited to apply, you submit a proper application, then you are allowed to come on a work permit in a particular province or territory. You establish a business in that province or territory depending on how much time is involved, maybe a year or 2 years and so on. And then after the government has approved you, then you are able to submit your PR application. So submitting PR application for your family members may take some time. So for those candidates who have children who are turning 22 in a closer date, let's say within 6, 8, 9, 10 months, entrepreneur program may not be a fit for them, because they might have to wait for 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years to submit their PR application when they could include their children, dependent children in it. Compared to that, the PR application is submitted a little faster in the startup visa program. For example, 6 months, 7 months, 5 months time. So if your child is turning 22 next year, you may be able to include that child in the startup visa application, and in that way your investment would bring your child in Canada, compared to another program in which the PR application is submitted after 2 to 3 years. So if you have a child who's at the edge of 23, 22 years, that child may not be included in this application. The seventh advantage of this program is the work permit, the provision of work permit for essential members. So you yourselves can come earlier to Canada, as we have discussed on a side note previously as well as your spouse is able to apply for an open work permit and get granted. So your application is pending, your PR is pending, but still you can come and start working towards your startup business, and your spouse could come on an open work permit, and he or she could also work inside Canada and start accumulating the valuable Canadian experience in this case. When you are on a work permit in most of the provinces or territories, the eighth advantage is that you may be able to get health care coverage as well. So if you are on a work permit and you are on a business, or your spouse has got an open work permit and got a job offer, there is a high chance that in most of the provinces you would be able to, your health would be covered, and your health care would be taken care by the provincial or territorial government in that province. Now, when we talk about the physical presence requirements, we know in the startup visas, there is no physical presence requirement in Canada. You can apply for a startup visa, and if you're not coming on work permit, you could remain where you are and keep your life there till the time that you get permanent residence. It is though recommended that you apply for a work permit, but on that work permit, you not necessarily have to spend 90% of time in Canada. So if you have some other businesses abroad, but you spend a reasonable amount of time in Canada, your application could still succeed. There is no compulsory or compulsion of remaining in Canada 75% of the times, which is the case in the provincial nomination programs. For example, if you are undergoing a process under provincial nomination process for entrepreneurs in a smaller province as Manitoba or Saskatchewan, Northern Territories, then when you do the business, you have to be there 75% of the time. Compared to that, in startup visa, there's more flexibility available. You can keep moving between Canada and your home country. Your days, 75% of the days are not counted towards the final application. Last advantage, the 10th advantage of this program compared to entrepreneur programs is that there is no good faith deposit. In entrepreneur programs, you submit an expression of interest, your expression of interest is picked up, you submit a full-fledged application, your application is approved, you enter into an agreement with the government of that particular province or territory, and most of the provinces or territories, you have to pay about $100,000, $75,000 deposit with that government, and then they let you come on a work permit and do the business. So if the business fails and you're not able to demonstrate later during the process that you successfully established the business, you won't get provincial nomination, and your good faith deposit would also be lost. Similarly, if you have paid the good faith deposit to the government, that $75,000, $100,000, whichever the amount is according to that province, you come to Canada and due to some reason you are unable to establish that business, then that amount is again gone. So one, that amount is at risk because you've already guaranteed the government with that amount, and second, if you somehow decide not to do the business after coming to Canada, you lose that amount. If the business fails, then you lose that amount. Compared to startup visas, there is no such good faith deposit, so it affects your cash flows as well. So most of the provinces and territories, they have minimum requirement of $150,000 to $200,000 for provincial nominee entrepreneur program, provincial entrepreneur programs, and over and above that amount, you have to budget that extra good faith deposit, so the overall investment goes higher. Compared to that, because the startup visas do not have this, so you save the cash flow or that amount, $100,000, which is not required in the startup visa programs. So in this video, I have pointed out different advantages, about 10 advantages of coming to Canada on a startup visa. One, there's no net worth requirement. Two, there is no compulsory business ownership requirement in that. Third, the processing times, they start when the application is submitted. The PR application processing times, they don't start when, unlike a provincial nomination, when the province has nominated you. The program, it's a federal program. You can live anywhere in Canada. You could come to Canada earlier on a work permit. Your dependents under 22 would be included. There are benefits like getting a work permit for yourself, an open work permit for your spouse. You may be entitled to healthcare in Canada when you are on a work permit. There's no 75% physical presence requirement for the startup visas. There's no good faith deposit requirement. So this is a complex area of law, and if you decide to go this way, we'll be more than happy, along with our partners, to help you in securing the startup visas and submitting your PR application. In this process, from the stage one, from developing your idea to the letter of support stage, we help you throughout this process, and then we are able to help you in submitting your PR and work permit applications. If you have any interest in startup visa applications, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. We'll do an initial assessment and we'll do a formal consultation session with you. After that, we'll be able to confirm you whether you are a good candidate, whether we can accommodate you in one of the existing startup visa projects, or we could develop a project for you. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate in reaching out. Send us an email, call us, and if you like this video, please click the like button. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.